Welcome to Refill 100. As you know, this is an initiative where we talk about philosophy, where we talk about religion, where we talk about science. And today we have this very special honor of having you back to St. John's. 10 years ago you graduated and you took away plenty of things, material things, knowledge, memories, friendships. What do I know about all of that? But you do know what you have taken away. In the meantime, 10 years have passed, and again, you have lived in so many different places. You are working, you are having other relationships, you are having other friendships, and you've been all over the world, literally. So, here for the generations that today stay at St. John's, and for us who are still trying to share our knowledge with the students, what is it that you would share with all of us today? Say if we would ask Patricia, what would you share with us? What were your takes away from St. John's 10 years ago? What have been your new learnings in the meantime, and so on?
Well, thanks for the great welcome, Dr. Castillo, and it's nice to be back and see how much both the school has changed and how so much hasn't changed at all. I think one of the big things I cherish about St. John's is all the great friends that I've made here, many of whom are here today, some of whom aren't here today, and I think it's a unique place where you can meet people from all over the world. So I think it's a place to make the most of that, meet people, stay in touch, and that means that 10 years later you can go for free holidays in countries all over the world.
Very good. Emily, what advice would you have? What memories would you share with us?
I think for me, I moved halfway through 11th grade here to St. John's from the US. So moving halfway through a grade was a big challenge at first. But there was one person in particular at the school who noticed that I was a little bit lonely and said, hey, well, why don't you come over, and actually invited us to get ready at your place for prom. And that one person taking that one step to say, hey, you should come and hang out with us, that really changed my whole perspective at the school. So thank you to that person, and then I still keep in touch with those people today. So advice that I would give a student at St. John's today is try to reach out to people that might be struggling, because you don't know if that's going to turn the situation around for them.
Oh, wow, very good. Thank you.
Nice
Emily.
words.
Yeah, Eric, you are so dynamic. You've been always very dynamic and sportive, athletic, and very good friends to other people. What have you taken away from the school, and what would your advice would be for the students today?
Well, thank you. I have been very dynamic, not in the last 10 years, but before that. I'm very happy to know my name is still on the boards, and but for me, things have already been said. The friends I have today are mostly from school. We speak pretty much every day. If not, then it doesn't really matter. I guess what I took away from school is, first of all, some teachers that changed my life. They really had an impact on me, which is hard to say, and you don't really realize that's a real thing. I wasn't the best student, but St. John's prepared me as well, not being the best student to then go to uni and be excelled there. Maybe not excel, maybe that's not the word, but be good enough. And then to continue into a career that I actually enjoy and love, and St. John's has a lot to do with that. It did inspire me a lot. So for me, it's just keep being friends with the people that you love, and don't give up, and just be the best you can, and things will be figured out later. So,
Thank you. We have learned that in the meantime you are still in the African continent, and not very often people who live here in Belgium do have the opportunity to go down there to the African continent. How is life treating you down there, and what have you done, and what have you taken away from here, Jack?
Yes, I moved down to the African continent, to Rwanda, 2 years ago. For me, it was a move because I'm half Belgian, half Rwandan, but I've never lived in Rwanda. I was always here in Belgium. So for me, it was kind of a move back to a home that I do not know. And it's been truly amazing. Definitely for anyone that might be considering a move to Africa. I've now lived in Kenya, I've lived in Rwanda. I spent a lot of time in the other countries in that region, I definitely recommend it. And it's a move that's very, I would say, relatively speaking, for people with our background from this school, it's a move that's relatively easy to make. I think I'm going to be repeating some of the ideas that have been evoked here already, but I think definitely the greatest wealth, the greatest riches you can have is social capital. Knowing people, knowing them in a great amount of varied backgrounds in a lot of places around the world really allows you to move anywhere and do anything and end up anywhere you want to be. And well, yeah, our lives here really perfectly exemplify that, because my friends whom I've stayed very close to all this time are now scattered around the world. The people I know from school are scattered around the world, and I've been able to, even in Rwanda and Kenya, meet people through connections I had through St. John's and continue them and yield benefits from them even to this day. So your education here opens up opportunities for the future.
Good. Daniel, tell us about your story after school, after St. John's. What has happened in this
story after St. John's? So yeah, quite an interesting one. So I went to university in the UK. I studied at the University of Kent, where I did financial economics. I then worked in London for a year as part of my placement year in a macroeconomics think tank. To some people watching this, that may sound boring. It was kind of boring, but it's also like a good thing because you kind of realise where your interests lie. So for me, it was kind of like a wake-up call to start studying something not entirely different, but kind of just something that would open more doors. So I decided to study management and IT, and ended up getting a job back here in Belgium for Swift, which isn't too far from here in Waterloo. So they're based in Leuven. Worked for them for a couple of years, and then I again decided, ultimately, I don't really care if Citibank sends $2 billion to Deutsche Bank. And again, it's kind of like a lesson of you try things and you learn, where your interests lie, where your strengths lie. And then eventually I ended up applying for different jobs, and I'm very passionate about entertainment, video games, technology. And I got a job for Pokemon, which was like a childhood dream come true as a little kid who used to watch the anime and play the video games and collect the cards and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of my story, and I guess if there's anything to take away from that is, even if you have an experience that you don't really enjoy, just think of it as a lesson where it kind of steers you in the correct direction, and it kind of makes you realise where your strengths lie, and where you want to focus your attention.
I remember Vincian, you were dancing those days, you were the ballerina. But Vincian has changed, I suppose, in the meantime.
Yes, I did do a lot of dance at school. I still do dance now and then. I think one of the things I definitely remember from St. John's were all of the extracurricular opportunities that were offered, whether that was dance, theatre, art, etc. And I think my piece of advice would be to try lots of things out and see what you might find that you're passionate about. I think for me that ended up being art. That was something that I became incredibly passionate about throughout middle and high school. And ultimately, that was a passion I decided to pursue as a career as well. So I think St. John's was also a school that encouraged specific passions and encouraged students to pursue them. And I'm very grateful that I decided to follow that passion. I think a lot of times when you have passions that maybe are less academic or less kind of necessarily fit into the idea of what is a successful or a job that will earn you a lot of money in the future, people might not go down that path. But I think if you're passionate about something, you'll find a way to make it work. And I'm very thankful that I did, and it's led me down paths that I would never have expected. So yeah.
Okay. And so Patricia, how has professional life developed? What place you went to after St. John's? What have you done in the meantime?
Yeah, so I think similar to many people here, I moved to the UK for my studies. I studied chemical engineering at Cambridge. I was always quite scientific at St. John's and made the most of all the opportunities here to study science with many of our great science teachers. After that, I decided I did not want to stay in the scientific world or be an engineer, and moved into strategy consulting. Started that in London, spent some time in New York, and now I have moved back to London. And like Harold mentioned very eloquently, I think this school does create the relationships for you all around the world. So when I moved to New York, I was able to reconnect with St. John's friends, and in London, again, reconnect with many of the St. John's community. So yes, really valued my time here and all the people that it made me connect with and stay in touch with for life.
Excellent. And Emily, how is? Did I understand well that you are living in Sweden?
I'm actually living in the US, but I did do a little stint in Sweden. So after my studies at St. John's, I ended up studying chemical engineering as well at the Georgia Institute of Technology in Atlanta, Georgia. And towards my last year, similar to Patricia, I realized that maybe spending a time in a lab isn't quite for me. So I decided to move back to Sweden and did a master's in industrial management. And after that, I applied to a rotational program at a company, and I can highly recommend this for any young professional to apply to different trainee programs, because you get to test out different roles at a company and see what's of interest to you. So now I'm done with that program and working in an automotive company that I'm thrilled to be a part of. And I think my experience here at St. John's, learning to connect with different people, helped me when networking at my company, knowing, hey, it's okay to reach out to someone and send them a blank email or ask them for coffee. Because a lot of people, they like helping young professionals or younger students succeed in their career. So I'm grateful for my experience here.
Wow. Eric, any professional advice for us?
I guess so. So I went to the UK as well for my university. I went to Canterbury Christchurch, which was a small uni in Canterbury, next to Kent. After that, I moved back to Paris and tried to apply to some big companies, but my profile just wasn't matching. And so I actually went towards smaller companies, and that led me to some startups where I've worked in e-commerce, events, green tech, fintech, impact investment, crypto, and now for this American company that has one of the best products that I didn't even know could exist. That is very exciting. So I guess my advice is don't always focus on the big companies, because it's not necessarily what's going to teach you the most, but taking the risk and going for a startup might teach you more and set you up for the future, and just sometimes taking a risk will pay off. And for me, it really did, because I realized how much I love startups. So now I can see myself in a big group anyways. So very happy where I am.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you. Jack, any advice from for the future? Any plans that you have and that you think that we could learn from?
Plans for the future? Well, actually, let's say the opposite of plans is what has defined the last couple of years, which is to mean that after leaving St. John's, I went to study international relations in uni. I was in the UK as well, in the University of Exeter. Then I was for 1 year in Chicago at the University of Chicago. After I was done with all this, so about the time when COVID hit, there was COVID and everything was going on, so a lot of my plans were either in suspense, I was waiting for something to pull through, etc. So I had nothing really planned, and I had always wanted to go back to Rwanda, even though I'd never lived there, to be able to learn my own culture, speak my own language, etc. And so basically my piece of advice would be keep your options open, because I decided to just head off to Africa. First I went to Kenya because that was an easier move in the immediate, stayed there for 1 year, and then I moved to Rwanda, planning to be there 3 years. I'm now starting my 3rd year, and going there without a plan has actually been a great idea, because I turned up and I ended up finding opportunities which, compared to what I would have found if I had planned it ahead of time, or if I had basically just stayed in Europe, has given me a far larger breadth of experience, I would say, than I would have had otherwise. So I started off working for some NGOs where I did very varied work it was for an NGO called YWCA, Young Women's Christian Association, which was primarily gender-based violence prevention, some HIV and AIDS protection, follow-up, maybe this be medically, psychologically, etc. On this side, I did a lot of community outreach. I did a lot of work locally with the communities, etc. But I also did a lot of media and communications work, a lot of social media representation, a lot of finding a lot of participating in conventions. That's the advantage of Africa. They give you one role, but really you're doing about 10 at the same time. But you get all that experience, which is very cool. And now I've completely switched and moved to the private sector in Africa. So sometimes sticking to a plan is the right way. Sometimes you might want to see what opportunities the future can offer you if you don't be too much of a stickler.
Okay. What about your advice, Daniel?
I guess it's kind of similar to what I was saying earlier, like before with my own experience, but just don't give up. Just honestly, just don't give up. Yeah, if things don't go according to plan, just if things go well, you graduate school, go to university, if you're looking for jobs. If things don't go your way, then just don't give up and keep trying, keep applying, I kind of went through that process of having many interviews and often getting to the last round, not getting the job, and it can be like heart crushing when it's like a company that you really want to work for. But at the end of the day, ultimately you're getting more and more experience. And yeah, eventually, if you just persevere, you might just land that dream job that you're looking for. It kind of relates to what Arsene was saying earlier about being passionate about something. If you're passionate about it as well, it won't feel as much like a job. And that's something that you definitely do not take for granted. If you have a passion, like a dream job, then it just feels like everyday life. It doesn't feel like a chore, basically.
Mm-hmm. Any last word, Vincian?
I think similar to Harold, I think keeping an open mind, like not necessarily having a plan or having some sense of where you want to go is helpful, but I think definitely being open to new opportunities and being open to challenge as well. I think for me, I did history of art in a very traditional university. I came from quite a traditional view of that kind of sector. And currently I work in digital art, I work with crypto and blockchain, and I get to lead partnerships within that blockchain space. So with the Musée d'Orsay, Serpentine in London, and that's an area before joining and working in that area I knew nothing about. And there's something very exciting about embracing a challenge and learning on the job. And I think never giving up the idea of like lifelong learning and the challenge that can come with is very exciting.
Thank you. Any last word from anyone? Still the last opportunity to share ideas, experiences, tell a joke or revive a memory?
Knock knock.
A lot of inspirational words from all my classmates and also for me today. So I appreciate you all for sharing, being open. Yeah.
And I think some last words of advice to these students at St. John's is make sure to have fun. I think we've addressed that here, but make sure to cherish the memories that you have here, make sure you make the memories, and then reflect on them for the years to come, because they're really precious.
Yeah. Anyone else?
If you're doing VIB, I will tell you in advance, look forward to first year of uni because it seems like a year of holiday in comparison to 12th
If
grade.
you go to the UK, yeah.
Oh, especially in the UK. If you go to the UK, first year is wonderful. Take advantage of it to do your driver's license, take advantage of it to do anything else you might want to do because it's the perfect time to do it. Honestly, everyone has the same feedback.
9k well spent, I see.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, well, I thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and I wish you all the best in your careers, in your future, and I hope that you come back from time to time. We are still in the context of the 60th anniversary of the school, and we are hoping to to connect with as many people as possible who, one way or another, have lived what we call the St. John's experience. I thank you again, everybody, not just those who are now with the interview, also the ones who are not with the interview. And I thank you for being here. Personally, I truly appreciate that you think of St. John's, that you come back, and I certainly appreciate that you are sharing your ideas, your experiences with the new generations of students. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon enough. Goodbye now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.